This week, I am bringing you a very personal story from someone who has recently lost almost 400 pounds. I was very inspired when I met this person, and I think you will be too. I'm calling this podcast episode Drop It Like It's Hot, but it could also be called Small, Sustainable Changes, Enormous Results. Thanks so much for joining me. This is the Wishing You Well podcast, and I'm your host, Maria Patrick. I'm a health coach who specializes in helping people improve their health through nutrition. And I've had the honor of working with many people on a variety of different health projects, but I have never, ever helped someone to lose 400 pounds. I come to you each week with stories to inspire and help us on our health journeys. And I typically find the inspiration from people in the news or from recent headlines and stories that have captured a lot of attention. This week's inspiration is different. This summer, I've been doing a lot of traveling. And for really the first time ever, I've become a frequent Uber rider. I put the app on my phone, and those Uber drivers have been taking me here, there, and everywhere. I've enjoyed each and every ride. And one of the reasons is because I really enjoy meeting new people. And I often find it fascinating when people tell me their backstory, how they got where they are today, and what their hopes and dreams are for the future. I've heard that there is a button somewhere on the Uber app where you can choose a silent ride, meaning that your driver won't engage in conversation with you. But I haven't found that feature yet, and I would probably not use it even if I did find it. So I was recently in the backseat of an Uber, and my very personable and charming driver shared his story with me, and I was literally on the edge of my seat because I found what he was saying all so mesmerizing. I'm going to call my driver for the purposes of this podcast, Joe. Joe proceeded to tell me as he was expertly navigating his Jeep Patriot through traffic that he used to weigh 700 pounds. And over the course of the past several years, he has lost 398 of those pounds. I asked him to repeat the numbers because I couldn't believe it. This very high energy, extremely happy, and very friendly man has been on a wellness journey, and he was so proud to share it with someone who was very interested in not only listening to him, but learning from him. So Joe was telling me about the fact that he comes from a large family of very large people, and that he was always told when he was growing up that it was okay, that that's how they're built, and that he needn't worry about it. He said that those words actually didn't help him. You would think that that kind of support and the lack of body shaming would have been very positive. But he said that it didn't help him because he couldn't realize, recognize, or see that he had a problem, and he just kept eating terrible foods and lots of them. And that exercise was not part of his routine in any way. And unfortunately, he kept getting bigger and bigger, gaining more weight along the way. He said that, surprisingly, to himself and to his doctors, that all of his numbers were good. His blood pressure, his blood sugar, his cholesterol. So shockingly, even his doctors weren't really pushing him very hard to make changes. And then one day, a few years ago, he and his wife decided to do just that, to make changes, ones that would help them to feel better and live longer. Joe and his wife are young. They're in their late 30s, and they have 3 children. And they decided to get healthier, not only for themselves and not only for each other, but also because of their kids. So I wanted to know specifically what Joe and his wife did to change their lives. And he told me. An Uber driver doesn't get a lunch break. There's no office cafeteria with a salad bar or a refrigerator where he could stash his lunch and his snacks and his water bottles for the day. So he used to do what so many of us find ourselves doing when we are busy and on the run and hungry. he would go through a fast food drive-through. He said that it was not uncommon to reach an intersection that had a Taco Bell, a Burger King, and a McDonald's all juxtaposed right next to each other. We passed one such intersection while he was driving me. Joe said that some days he would hit all three of those establishments in one day. He knew what he was doing was not healthy. He knew that he was not role modeling good eating habits for his kids. And he knew that he wasn't being a good example for the teenagers for whom he is a youth pastor. So he made what he thought was a drastic change, but he also realizes now, in the benefit of hindsight, that it was small steps. He decided to start packing snacks and bringing them with him to his place of work, his office, which, as we know, is the confines of his car. He told me what his healthy choices were and have been these years, and then he showed me, because they were right there in his car. His healthy choices are air-popped popcorn and nuts. And his summer trifecta of fruits, he says he changes it up seasonally, but for the summer, it's watermelon, pineapple chunks, and grapes. At night, instead of making and eating his mother's famous and much-loved macaroni and cheese recipe, which I think he told me has 6 or 7 cheeses in it, he decided to become a grill master. He got himself a grill/smoker, and he said that he got really excited to grill and or smoke something new every night. He and his wife, this was brand new for them, they started working out together every evening after dinner in the comfort and safety of their living room. They used YouTube videos to use fitness routines that would work for them. Joe said that while he would still drive by all of his previous usual fast food stops, he made the difficult yet life-changing decision for him to drive on by and to instead reach for the snack of the day in the basket on the front passenger seat. To say I was impressed is an understatement. I'd never actually met someone before who weighed 700 pounds and was successful to lose over half of their body weight. We all know how hard it is to lose even 10, 15, or 20 pounds. Imagine the tenacity and determination it takes to lose 400. Joe told me that having a partner who was not only incredibly supportive, but also along for the ride. Remember, I said he and his wife decided to do this together. He said that having her support and doing it together, coupled with making all of the eating and exercise changes and improvements right alongside each other, he said that was the secret sauce, the key to their success. And I say their success because his wife also lost half of her weight. She started at over 300 pounds. Within a couple of years, got down to 199, and she wasn't done then. She kept going until the number on the scale was way under 200. She worked so hard and has done so well that she is now a personal fitness trainer helping others on their own life-changing and life-saving journeys. And who better to teach someone to change their lives in this way, to drop that significant amount of weight, to make lifestyle changes that were sustainable? Who better than someone who has walked the walk? She and Joe have made their mess their message. As Uber rides go, this happened to be a rather long one, which was how I was able to get so much information and inspiration from Joe, my driver. When we finally reached my destination, I was left wishing we had another 25 or 30 miles to go. I even asked him if I could book him for the return trip because I could have listened to him for so much longer. I felt as if I had just attended an interactive TED Talk. I say interactive because Joe paused in his story to entertain every one of my inquiries and questions. I felt like I had gone to a convention center and seen the most inspirational keynote address. At one point, I was so excited, I said to Joe, my driver, "Preach!" Because remember, he's a pastor after all. I don't believe in accidents. I often say to myself and to my sons, everything happens for a reason. So I think that when we meet up with someone new and inspiring that our paths are meant to cross on this journey of life. This summer, in addition to maintaining my YouTube channel, I've been videotaping the private Qigong classes that I've been teaching this summer for my students so that they have the video to work with time and again after our private session has ended. I have to be honest, it's not my favorite thing to do because although I know my students find it very helpful, I find myself being extremely critical of my appearance in the videos. I can't help it. I end up focusing on areas where I wish that I was more toned or I'd like to lose weight. It's so easy to get discouraged, isn't it? We are our own worst critics, are we not? I would never ever speak to someone the way that I sometimes speak to myself in my own head. So while I was feeling a bit bloated and low after reviewing the video that I had recorded and edited the night before, I had the great fortune of meeting Joe, who in losing 400 pounds has gained not only a brand new, much leaner and healthier body. I wouldn't have clocked him in at 300. He looks fantastic. But he also has a new lease on life and a story that I think is worth sharing, so much so that I chose to tell you all about it this week. We sometimes find inspiration in the most unexpected places, and for me, it was in the back seat of an Uber. If I'm being honest, and I think it's important to do that with yourself as much as with others, I don't always leave my house with healthy snacks packed in my purse. I know it takes a bit of extra time, but so does waiting in the drive-through lane of Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or, heavens to Betsy, Krispy Kreme. Do you take a big water bottle with you when you leave your house? I don't always do so. I've gotten better, but it's a great place to start. I mentioned earlier that Joe and his wife are living this shared wellness journey. Joe sent me, as our ride ended, to his wife's YouTube page, which is actually all about crochet, and I am a knitter and a crocheter, and so he thought that I would be interested, and he was a wonderful husband to be promoting his wife's business, one of her businesses. But she also has a few videos on there where she talks about what she and Joe did to lose so much weight, so I got to hear her story too, her side of the story. She said that they decided to make what could be very difficult very simple instead. So what they did, and again, they made this decision together, which I know that we don't all always have that support, so this made it doable for them. They decided to increase the good stuff and decrease the bad. So they started with water. She said that whatever amount of water they were drinking when they started their weight loss, each day their goal was to add more until they got up to, I think she said that they're nearing a gallon a day each, which again, think how hard that is when what you do for a living is you're an Uber driver. But they've made this a priority. The healthy fruits and vegetables that they actually liked when they were both well over their ideal weight, they made bigger portions of those every day. I told you earlier about Joe's triple fruit approach, changes it up seasonally. The mac and cheese and burgers and fries and cheesy tacos that were the regular diet for them became less and less. And this I thought was fascinating. And Joe mentioned this to me in the car, and his wife did too. They still use the seasonings and sauces that they enjoyed so much from the fast food joints. But now, instead of those sauces and seasonings atop these fried fatty foods, they now add them to their brown rice and their grilled chicken and their shrimp. They even developed together a sweet potato cookie. He showed me the photo. I don't have the recipe, but he showed me the photos so that they didn't have to give up having a treat together, but they worked hard to come up with something that was a healthy treat. I am inspired, incredibly inspired. I am going to do what Joe has been doing, to pack the snacks, to drink more water, to focus on grilled seasonal foods, to take the favorite flavors from something that isn't healthy for you and add those flavors to your healthy choices that you've made. And as that Uber ride gets farther and farther away from me in the rearview mirror, I know that I'm going to still be thinking about Joe and the ways in which we all can drop it like it's hot. And like Joe and his wife, small changes can have enormous results. And a few changes over time can really add up, maybe even into the hundreds. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This episode is my 50th episode of the podcast. Wishing you well. I'm nearing my 1-year anniversary. This is the last episode of season 3. I'll be back together with you in a couple of weeks' time where I will launch a new season, season 4. And I am happy to meet you all where you're at. So if you have suggestions for topics that you'd like me to explore and research and have us start a dialogue about, let me know. There's ways in the description box where you can easily connect with me, and I promise you'll hear back from me. So please do reach out. Tell me what it is that you are working on. Tell me what it is that you want and need to change. And together, we will continue on our journey to living longer, better, and stronger lives. You know how I'm going to sign off. It's the same thing every week, all 50 episodes. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. And until we meet again, I am wishing you well.